We are recording.
I'm John.
We are recording today for Shane. Sean. Sorry. We'll just edit that out. I don't know why I always want to call him Shane. Anyway.
I heard that his whole life.
That's the one that had a road on his name, on his sweatshirt.
Yeah, he needs to, like, on his forehead. Anyway, something psychological, probably why I don't want to call him Sean. Anyway, Exodus chapter 18. It's good stuff. No, not Job chapter 23. That's the 24. That's on Sunday.
Yeah.
We're going to try to roll out 3 chapters on Sunday. Look, you missed a week of me, so now you got to double down.
I really think you should finish the whole book, because Nate and his family are going.
What verse are you
They're going
in?
on that cruise. They don't want to miss Job, I'm sure. Should do the whole thing.
Well, they should not go on the cruise so long. Do what?
What verse are you at in 18?
I am going to. Oh, let's see what do I want to be at here. You give me a recap. You guys tell me a little bit what you learned last week in Exodus 18.
He listened to his father-in-law.
Okay, that's the end part. Good. Who was a priest of what?
Midian.
What?
Midian.
Oh, of Midian. Oh, okay. Well, who's a priest of Midian?
Jethro.
That's correct.
Okay, what does it mean to be a priest of Midian?
As
Well,
far
it
as
means he
I'm
was
aware, it
walking
means
with
he's a
God,
priest
too.
of the.
Why does it mean he was walking with God too?
He's one of
He's the one who taught Moses about it.
Hebrew.
The Hebrew
Yeah.
God.
Jacob.
Wasn't he?
What?
Wasn't he the one who taught Moses about the Hebrew God?
No.
No. Okay, well then I misunderstood.
No, his mother did.
Yeah. After. Well, his mother taught him before. Jethro really didn't teach him about him. God introduced himself to Moses.
Okay.
Giant burning bush, remember?
I remember that.
Oh, hey, look. Hey, Moses, come here. Yeah, he didn't know who he was.
I had trouble.
Not saying that
I had trouble
Jethro
getting
didn't know him.
times,
Moses
but I
didn't really
miss
know
you
who he
covered
was.
it.
Even though he'd known about him, but didn't know about him. He'd never been introduced as an adult.
He never experienced.
But then God introduced himself and said, hey, Moses, come here. Now, take off your shoes.
Guess what? I have a surprise for you.
All right.
Well, a lot of the correlations are the fact of them meeting and them interacting and realizing they had something. It was kind of encouraging for Moses to take his advice at the end of the chapter, as opposed to
Okay.
everybody else.
We're going to get there. This is the important theological thing. We got to back up. Now Jethro, verse 1. Now Jethro, priest of Midian, Moses' father-in-law, heard all that God had done for Moses and for Israel and for his people, and how Yahweh brought Israel out of Egypt. Now back to priest of Midian. Why is that important?
Midian is related to the Israelites.
Ah. How?
What was it? Somehow, was it Benjamin?
Nope.
No, the son of Esau, from Esau.
Nope.
It was one of the brothers of
Jacob?
one of the 12 tribes of Israel.
Nope.
Nope.
Have to be Jacob.
Keep going.
Just doing his friend.
Back further.
Abraham?
There you go. He was the son of Abraham by Abraham's second wife.
Oh,
Okay? Yet still a descendant of Abraham, which means who would Abraham have taught him about? Yahweh, God, right?
Okay.
Here we go. So you now have a priest of Midian, which does make it a priest of Yahweh, because there are all kinds of priests running around in the wilderness, right? We got all kinds of Canaanite gods out there.
So Jethro was the son of
A Midianite.
He was a Midianite,
Yeah.
which was an offshoot of the second wife of Abraham.
Of Abraham.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, he had like 12 kids from the second wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously then still a descendant of promise, not the promise, but of promise, that I will make your descendants as numerous as the deal is. So he doesn't give the name of Israel then to tell Jacob, but here is a brother of Jacob, in other words, because he's associated through Abraham. All right, so they are descendants, they are related. That's important to note. That's important to note. All right, because as it goes, we see that Jethro goes in, brings the kids in, brings the wife back, and I'm going to pick up in verse 8 real quick. And Moses recounted to his father-in-law all that Yahweh had done to Pharaoh and to the Egyptians for Israel's sake, and all of the hardship that had befallen them on the journey, and how Yahweh had delivered them. And Jethro rejoiced over all the goodness which Yahweh had done to Israel, and that he had delivered them from the hand of the Egyptians. And so Jethro said, Blessed be Yahweh, who delivered you from the hand of the Egyptians, and from the hand of Pharaoh, and from who delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that Yahweh is greater than all the gods, for in this matter they acted presumptuously against the people. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering, sacrifices for God, and Aaron with all of the elders of Israel came together to eat a meal with Moses' father-in-law before God.
Now, what do they mean by before God?
It means they offered unto God,
So
which,
they have to have the sacrifice that was offered.
okay. So it was probably, there is two sacrifices. There was the heave offering unto God, all right, which we've given unto God and only God. So that burnt offering would have been burnt to the ground. Nobody would have touched it. And then they would have had a heave offering, which would have been a second bull given unto the people, that the people then now before God to honor God now eat together.
Quite a sacrifice if all the people ate of it.
Do what?
Must have been quite a sacrifice if all the people ate of it.
Well, in this case, it's just the elders came before and ate with Jethro,
Yeah.
right?
Smaller barbecue.
Yeah, it was invitation only, right? And so, what does this sound like? What does it sound like?
You said not quite fair enough, but oh, Passover. That's a good question.
All right? It does sound a little bit like Passover. Not quite Passover, because they're not being delivered from anything,
And it also doesn't say lamb was slaughtered.
right? That's close too.
We haven't got to Jesus yet, but they're still using food and all that.
Yeah. What does it sound like?
Feast of Tabernacles.
All right, you guys are thinking too much, like
About food.
trying to get the Bible answer.
How about a good old-fashioned fellowship?
Sounds like a family get together. Thanksgiving.
You said what?
Family get together.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. People you're related to come from out of town, have a big barbecue together. We used to call that a...
Family reunion.
There you go. Hey, we got a family reunion. Not only that, we have a covenantal union. They're eating together. Blood is sacrificed. It's before the Lord. That is covenantal.
Okay, since they didn't spill each other's blood, that's just
Right? Jethro's line, the Midianite line, is reconciled unto God through burnt offering. Right? They would have had to have been circumcised already, but now reconciled with their brother Israel, who is the child of the promise. Right? Very interesting how this happens here. Giant family reunion, covenantal reunion. Right? We're assuming, because it's Abraham's descendants, that these men are all circumcised. And the fact that he is a priest of Midian, and God didn't annihilate him, that he's probably circumcised.
Yeah.
Those are some safe assumptions. While it doesn't outright explicitly say that, I mean, they were going to kill Moses for not being, for not having his kids,
And his kid's circumcised,
Yeah, and he was going to kill Moses over it. So
She's circumcised.
actually, it was Moses who wasn't circumcised, or he was circumcised by Egyptian standard, not by God's standards. So he didn't do it as part of covenantal circumcision, and it's not like you can take more. So he took his sons instead and threw it upon his feet to then be that substitutionary. Oh, imagine that. The son is the substitutionary blood sacrifice for the sins of people. That sounds
never
awful
see that.
familiar.
Sounds relatable.
All right, and I know we covered that a while back ago, but here we are now. We got these men gathered together under blood before the Lord, reconciled together. This is the family of God coming together. This is the way it was always supposed to be. It wasn't Israelite out here all by themselves blocking off everybody else like we see in the New Testament, where we see like the woman at the well, and we see these subsect of Jews who aren't real Jews, right? And we see them discounted and counted as dogs before the people, right? And so they don't worship God the way we worship God. And so we do see lines of people as we go again that will happen, especially during the exiles. We'll see fringes of these people, and that's where some of these subsects of Jewish people are actually born out of, is out of the exiles. And they were people that never really returned, but kind of stayed in the area they were. And didn't have the law necessarily, but were living a law unto themselves and loving God the best the way they knew how. So, great theological significance here. The bringing together of Abraham's descendants by Jethro, and Jethro being the lead and the wise and the priest, and Moses recounting him what Yahweh has done. He gives honor to Yahweh. We see this great reconciliation of family, right? So crazy. Not to mention the fact he was a priest of Midian, and that's who rescued Moses out of the deserts of Egypt when he went running away from Egypt. And now we see all this tie in together. Yet we have Moses the prophet. We have Jethro the priest. Again, we have this separation of things that, what's up, buddy?
Not much.
Man, look at you. I haven't seen you in a long time, man.
I was here last week. Yeah.
I haven't seen you in a long time. Everybody else has.
It's Liam.
Liam.
Liam?
Yeah,
Okay.
L-I-A.
Well, I did record the first part of it. You're going to have to go back and rewatch it because we just had a giant theological discovery of reconciliation and stuff that I wasn't sure if you covered that.
Brian, if you had more time, I'm sure we'd have.
Brian was like, I did cover that. Thanks for re-explaining that to everybody after I covered it.
Well, it was quick what I had, I went back and I found a commentary, and I think a lot of this was covered, but I probably didn't go into it.
It's all right.
Connection.
It was all right. That was the one thing I wanted to kind of hit up inside of here before we moved on to chapter 19. Chapter 19, Exodus chapter 19. So, beautiful God in work, God in motion in these things. God always brings us together in reconciliation, brings us back to one another, honoring one another with these things, guys. So important to understand this. That everybody can be reconciled and there's no time frame. Reconciliation can always happen. Let the family come back together, right? We were just talking about that with some pastor buddies of mine.
God does not want anyone to perish.
That's right. And he wants us to be like-minded, of one mind. He wants us to get along, to have fun with each other, to hang out, to learn from each other. Everybody's got a different perspective. Like Brian, I know taught phenomenally last week. And he had great perspectives on things, which is why I'm not reteaching. It'd be kind of a kick right in the gonads if I retaught the whole thing. There was just one specific theological thing I wanted to pull out there. So, all right. Chapter 19, verse 1, in the third month of the sons of Israel, in the third month after the sons of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, on this day, they came into the wilderness of Sinai. Wait a minute, where were they just at? Oh, wait a minute, were they just at the mountain of Sinai? How are they just coming into the wilderness of Sinai if they're already there?
They went around the,
Did you catch that? They done went around
They
the
went
camp.
around the mountain, to the wilderness. Desert on this side. wilderness on this.
Now, chapter 17 said they journeyed by stages from the wilderness of Sinai.
Yep, right? That was when they were contending with Moses, right?
Yep.
But here, just in the last chapter, where were they at? Moses in the wilderness where he had camped at the mountain of God. What's the mountain of God?
Sinai.
Okay, so he's in the wilderness in the mountain. That would mean he'd be in the wilderness of what? Sinai. Well, wait a minute. This says in the 3rd month, sons of Israel gone out of the land of Egypt. This day came in the wilderness of Sinai.
Oh, we've time traveled.
Mine actually says the desert.
But,
So that's translate, I mean, I guess.
It's not always desert
so
over there.
to recap and reset?
Oh, wait a minute. You what?
Recap and
Time
reset.
traveled.
Oh, you recap. Oh,
Flashback scene?
so wait a minute. Moses was making an astute, essential theological point in chapter 18 that was outside of the narrative of the story of Exodus.
Oh, the chronological narrative.
There you go. So it's important when we see these little things, because somebody's going to point out and going, well, see, there's contradiction. They were already in the wilderness of Sinai. Now they're back in the wilderness. Where'd they go?
Around the mountain.
Obviously, they went to the wilderness of something, come back.
Quick answer.
Well, the same thing.
I just camped there a long
It's a
time.
10-foot square area. You can be in multiple places in the same
They
area.
made multiple wildernesses at the base of Mount Sinai at the same time.
They had to go around the corner. That's for
Oh,
sure.
that's the same thing.
Grab it, work. Thank you, I appreciate it, Russell. Or that.
They had to get that song from somewhere. She'll be coming around the mountain when she comes.
Those are great, but guys, this is seriously though, where people will point stuff like this out. We have to be able to answer that. And we answer with some jokes right now, but what if somebody legitimately wants to know about the Bible and says, there's a contradiction, how do you reconcile that? Well, you have to be able to, in context, read and say, because of the great theological discovery, this reunion of the descendants of Abraham, and the fact that we're talking about how this is kind of the initiation of Moses the prophet, and then we've got Jethro the high priest, or the priest of Midian in this case, then we got to see that it's important that we reconcile this. Well, because he needed to make this theological point, it's outside of the chronological narrative. So this is, all of chapter 18 is an aside. It's not in that chronological fashion and order. This, what's going on here, happened as a part of what's going on in chapter 19.
If you were watching a movie, it would be that cutaway scene where
There
they
you go.
explain to you what happened right before, you know.
There you go. There you go.
Like this would be.
Yeah, that's exactly.
It's not the part where they jumped in the DeLorean and went back in time.
No, it's not going back in time, right? Important that we understand that and we can explain that, because that not only makes theological sense, it makes literary sense, because we see people do it all the time in literary writings. All right. So it's 3rd month, right? Number of godly completion. Number 3, not the number of completion of work. Number of godly completion of the Trinity. Trinitarians, theological completion. That's 3s. That's where we get Trinity from. These are all completion numbers. They set out from Rephidim and came to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. And there Israel camped in front of the mountain. Now Moses went up to God, and Yahweh called to him from the mountain, saying, Thus you shall say to the house of Jacob, and tell the sons of Israel, You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I lifted you up on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. So now then, if you will indeed listen to my voice, and keep my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession among all the peoples, for all the earth is mine. And you shall be to me a kingdom of priests, a holy nation. Oh. Promise or covenant?
It sounds like a promise. Because the covenant's already been made, and he's telling them to keep the covenant, then they are going to be.
Well, no, I think it's, well, no, it was a promise when he said, I will be your God and you will be my people. But then what would the covenant be? Covenant says,
So now then, if.
that's a promise.
That's covenantal.
Oh, covenantal.
Because it means two parties have to agree.
Okay.
That's what I was gonna say, the key word here is if.
If you obey.
Yeah.
Yep.
But isn't there always blood usually with a covenant?
We're not there yet.
Okay.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it. This is the beginning of the Mosaic covenant. All right, which is the law covenant. There's a covenant of Abraham, which is a national covenant. Then you're going to have the covenant of the law. This is going to be the giving of the law. All right? And he said, if, all right, this is big, because we think Israel is a landmass, not a people. If you keep my commands, then you will be my people. Which means if you don't,
You will be.
then you won't be. And if you're not the people of God, then can you call yourself Israel?
No.
Okay. It's pretty simple.
It just doesn't mean anything.
So just because you're born of the seed of Abraham, does that make you Israel?
No.
No. Because you got to keep the commands, right? You got to do what it says. Okay. Listen to my voice, keep my covenant, then you shall be my treasured possession. And all the peoples for all the earth is mine. And you shall be my kingdom, shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you shall speak to the sons of Israel. So Moses came and he called the elders of the people and set before them all the words which Yahweh had commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, all that Yahweh has spoken, we will do.
Or not.
Y'all want to sleep on that a minute? Take your time with that.
Did they even listen to what he wanted them to do yet?
Well, yeah. Are they going to keep his commands? And they're going to listen to his voice. That's all that was required at that point.
He hasn't given them all yet. But
Right.
they're gonna do
What was the New Testament, verse that Jesus used? According to this, he said,
Holy
yeah,
Yeah.
the flesh, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Well, sure, absolutely.
And that's where these people were, right here.
But understanding, even when you messed up, God gave us a way of accountability for that. And he gave us the sacrificial system. And all you got to do is do the sacrificing and turn away from those things and turn back to him. It's the same thing as now. Our sacrificial system didn't stop being sacrificial. The sacrifice changed. That is no longer the lamb we sacrifice, but the lamb has been sacrificed. The once and for all sacrifice that's always being sacrificed, for the blood is always being poured out upon those who would be forgiven. So there's no need to re-sacrifice. So still sacrificial system. Anybody don't believe that? Well, you need to go back and you need to reanalyze your covenant with the Lord. Because you're under a sacrificial system. Somebody had to pay the price. Right? The once and for all sacrifice of Jesus, obviously. All right. So, and by the way, this is the initiation into the covenant. Will you do what I say? Will you listen to what I say and do what I say? If you will, you'll be my treasured people. I'm not going to leave you. You're going to get the land of milk and honey. I'm going to give you all the stuff. But you have to listen to my voice and do what I say. And they said, woo! Yeah, let's do that. Right? That's what they said. All right? That's current vernacular. All right? And Moses brought back the words of the people to Yahweh. Yahweh snickers. I mean, that's my parenthetical right there. That's my parenthetical. Yahweh said to Moses, then behold, I will come to you in a thick cloud, so that the people may hear when I speak with you, and may also believe in you forever. Then Moses told the words of the people to Yahweh. And Yahweh also said to Moses, go to the people, set them apart as holy today and tomorrow, and let them wash their garments, and let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day, imagine that, 3, there you go, third day, Yahweh will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people, and you shall set bounds for the people all around, saying, beware that you do not go on the mountain or touch the border of it. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. No hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or surely shot through. Whether beast or man, he shall not live. When the ram's horn sounds a long blast, they shall come up to the mountain. So, God says, go to the people and set them apart as holy. What makes us, you're not allowed to answer, Steve. What makes us holy?
We're set apart by God.
Okay, that's what it means to be holy. What makes us holy?
By carrying out His will.
All right, hey, thank you. By doing what he said.
Be holy as I am holy.
Which means you got to go do what God does, right? It's the doing that makes us holy. The doing don't save you. That's different, okay? Salvation and holiness are different.
Kind of like
Right.
faith without works is dead.
And there you go. So you can be saved and not yet holy. For you got to do to become holy, right? All these people stand before God, God saying, I'm going to be your God, yet they have to do what first to be holy?
What he says.
What he says. What did he tell them to do?
Clean yourselves up.
Right? Go wash your clothes and be holy. Set yourself apart for 2 days. And on the third day, I'm coming down.
Now, holy just means set apart, doesn't it?
It does mean set apart.
What's sanctified?
Sanctified means cleansed.
Okay.
Right? So it's a little bit more, it's a little bit different. It's mean to take into right living. To be sanctified is to cleanse into right living. So a little bit different. Because you can be holy to a lot of things, not just God. You can be holy to the world, set apart from God. A little different kind of holy.
Holy to the Chiefs.
Okay.
So something you said kind of stood out to me, because you said whenever they said, yeah, we'll do what you say, and you said God, God probably snickered about it, and that would apply, obviously God is all-knowing, but it kind of almost sounds like we don't have free will.
Yeah, no, it does not.
No?
That's why, that's the same problem I have with
Except for the fact that he asked.
That
them.
comes up like all the time.
Okay. So how did they not have free will?
Well, if he knows
Because
they're
God
gonna
already
fail,
knows the
then
answer.
We get into this a lot. There's a difference between him knowing and forcing you to fail. This is my simpleton terms.
Okay, so
How do we-
so there's probably opportunity for growth from it, which is why he doesn't let you know that you're probably going to fail or you will fail, which again makes me think there is predestination.
Well, you
Okay.
still have that decision. You still can do what he says, even though he knows you're not going to. You still.
There are things that are predestined. I was predestined to the pastoralship. I was predestined to be in this place. Because God already foreknew I would be here. But I still had to come here. I still had to choose
And the answer.
those choices to be here now. I have the free will to choose any choices, right? Just because somebody knows something does not eliminate the choice, okay? It may seem so in our mind, but we're seeing it from two perspectives, okay? When God says, I foreknew, that's because he stands outside of time. He sees past, present, future, all is the same. He lives, and it is. That's hard for somebody who's finite to understand.
I think the best way that I've ever seen that flushed out is actually in a comic book. Have you ever heard of the character Dr. Manhattan?
No.
From Watchmen.
Watchman, yeah, the big ball, or
I was gonna say
naked
there.
blue guy.
Yeah. They
I figured it was the naked blue guy.
they describe how he exists as kind of watching time in every moment of time at the same time. And I think that's the same way that Brandon is describing it as well. I think that's probably.
I think everybody struggles with this one a little bit. We get it with Cat a lot of stuff, but I think the one thing I've noticed is consistent every time when we struggle with it is that God doesn't have a problem with it. It's always our inability to understand. I mean, again, he gets it, he knows, but again, you still have, if you didn't have a choice, you laid it out that way.
Now.
You're gonna fail.
Let me use Moses to try and explain this to you. Okay? God, in all his infinite power, could have created beings to do exactly what he told them to do. He could have created robots. Easy. They're called animals. Animals do only what God has programmed them to do. They can't operate outside of that. They don't have free will. They operate based on their instincts and their programming. Period. I know it kind of sounds like the Matrix. Anyway, think about this. God could have done that with people, but he didn't. Okay. God is using Moses. God could have used anyone at any given time and forced him to do what Moses is doing. Why did God wait for Moses?
Well, the part of it was to fulfill a prophecy. For the time span had to be 400 years that they went into Egypt before the deliverer could appear.
He had the chocolate to do it.
Anybody could have done it if God forced them to do it,
Yeah.
right? Why Moses? If we have no choice, why Moses? Why not anybody? What makes Moses so special?
The circumstance.
He had an insight with Pharaoh.
Do what?
He was inside with Pharaoh because he'd been in Egypt.
Had 100 people inside with Pharaoh. Could have used any of them.
Sure he could have.
Why Moses?
Because he was born, he's doing what God tells him to do, even complying with what he's told to do.
Okay, that's right. Because God had to wait 400 years for the right person to be in the right place through human choice to birth Moses to begin with at a time when babies were going to be murdered because of a prophecy that came about a deliverer who would deliver the people of Israel from Egypt, who would be placed in a basket. Notice that nobody else placed anybody in a basket. But Moses' mother did, because Moses' mother had faith, because she chose to have faith, chose to put Moses in the basket, put Moses in the right place, at the right time, for the right thing.
So God's choice was a basket case.
He was. So, that's how you know that's the difference between predetermination, predestination. And that's that God awaited on the choices of man before he stepped down into our reality and acted. If he's just forcing people to do stuff, there's no reason to wait 400 years. There was no reason to prophesy that it was going to be 400 years.
If we were forced, then there was no point for us being held accountable.
That comes into the more theological understanding of why predetermination doesn't work. Because then you kind of lose your, then God's the creator of evil. And that's what you can't reconcile with predetermination. That's the problem with that, because if, in the end, what we're seeing as we're going back and we're looking in reverse, and we're seeing this story play out, it almost feels like God's just moving pieces. But in the end, God's just acting as the pieces are moving themselves.
That's exactly right, because, I mean, you know, they chose to not take the 11-day journey. They chose to disobey him and grumble and complain at every turn,
Yep. And
which caused it to be
So in all God's infinite knowledge, and again, if he'd have known all this, why didn't he just bring about what he wanted to bring about long before? Right? Why didn't he just force everybody to do what they were supposed to do and do the right thing anyway? All predestined means is that God acted at the appropriate time because he knew the appropriate time to act. Right? It just seems like he's forcing things, but that's what it seems like to a finite mind. It looks like magic, but it's not. It's people making choices and God moving in those choices that they make. So just because you have a choice to make, the second way I'll explain this to you is I've explained it before. If I put two things in front of you, right? If I put a big, hot, steaming pile of duty in front of you, right? In one bowl, right? And then I put a big stack of fat cash in the other bowl. And I said, hey, choose. I know your choice before you make it.
You know the probability of one.
Does that eliminate your choice?
You could take the duty if you
Oh,
want.
yeah.
If I place green slimy vegetables in front of a child and I place a bowl of ice cream in front of a child, I know their choice before they make it, but they still have to reach out and grab that ice cream, don't they? That's God. God knows our choices, but he doesn't reach down and force you to make them.
Well, that's just like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Let's go back to that.
That's the perfect example. And he already knew the choice they were going to make, but he put the tree there anyway because they had to have the choice to make. Otherwise, you don't have love. No choice, no love, love's gone. Can't explain to me love without choice. Can't. God in his infinite love chose to create human beings. Chose to do it knowing they were going to fall, which makes it an even deeper love. Because he did it for the ones who would choose him.
And knowing they would fall again and again and again.
Because he knew some wouldn't. And some would choose him.
Yeah, but
And
I mean,
we'll
even
know.
after
Yep.
we choose him,
Well, sure, we would make mistakes over and
Yes.
over and over again. Yeah, yeah.
That's why he had a plan.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
And he waited in time each time when he does something right.
Pretty strong argument when you think about it that way, because if you just wanted things to play with, you just make them the way you want them. It would be much, much easier.
Yeah. Then you don't have a relationship,
Right.
don't have love,
Yeah,
then it's
just-
worthless.
just have what you
and
make.
then you don't have choice.
There you go.
His choice is absolutely the ultimate word in salvation.
Great question.
It comes up, well, that's a good one.
It's always a great question to ask because it is
It's
a,
a different explanation every time, but it always, it's good.
and I'm going to tell you, my explanations probably fall very short of what God's up there. Here we go. God's snickering. Because he sure is trying his dangest to work it out. Just because
Doesn't make you.
Yeah. Did you just hear what Brandon said?
Just because you feel like there's no choice because somebody knows you already made a choice doesn't eliminate your choice because you're here and now and you're not an eternal person and you don't live in the past, present, and future. You're now playing out your life where you're going to make choices. And then you're like, well, that's not really a choice. He already knows a choice. But just because it's like a movie, right? Just because you rewind it doesn't mean they didn't make all the same choices, right? But they still made those choices the first time they did the movie. That person in that movie could have done anything. They could have stood on their head and done 3 circles. But now that the choice is made, it can't be unmade. So just because somebody's already sitting at the end of the movie and knows all the choices doesn't mean that your movie is not playing out right now where you need to make those choices. Right? Or don't make the choice. It don't matter because that in itself is making a choice. You're choosing to act, to not to act. Make sense? Make sense?
No, I get it, I just always have trouble with that.
Oh, everybody does. Even I still struggle with it. It'd be sure as heck a lot easier if it wasn't up to me. I can just blame God.
Just telling you what to do.
You know what, though, we joke.
He did! All right. Go wash up. That's where we're at. Gotta wash up before you come before the Lord. Right?
And don't go near any women.
Well, we'll get there. That's the repeat. All right, Mo's gonna add a little bit. Maybe he forgot when he was with the elders, but he's like, oh yeah, and don't go around any women. All right? Why you gotta wash up?
Be holy.
Why?
Because God said so.
Why?
Because he said so.
Why?
Because he said so.
Why?
Because he said so.
Yeah, you sound like my dad.
To get rid of the filth,
Okay.
clean.
Did it really get rid of filth?
No, to make themselves clean.
Well, I mean, you know, did you go to your father-in-law and ask for your wife's hand in marriage, all filthy, or did you clean up?
Oh, I didn't ask him. I just married her. He already said no, and I didn't care.
Well, but you get my drift here.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
Which leads me to believe there's a deeper meaning. It's gonna be one of these cyclical things that they used to do in the past, like,
Let me ask you this. When you got baptized, what do you think happened there?
we were washed.
Priests,
You just got washed up, didn't you?
Right.
the priest
Washed of our sins, washed of our past.
Right? Technically in the scripture in Romans it tells us died, buried, and resurrected. Right? We got washed up. Right? What did Jesus say about that?
Well, he said he would be,
Or what did Paul say about it? Let's change that. Baptism is not the washing.
It is the dying
not the
of the flesh.
experience of, but of the circumcision, I was thinking of the circumcision of the heart.
Oh, no, you're about there. Baptism is not the washing of water upon the body. It's the cleansing of a good conscience. It's washing the spirit. You're doing something physical to represent in there something that's going on.
Spiritual awakening.
This is it. Same thing with what this is called baptizing in the Old Testament. Right?
So that's what this was here, was baptizing.
Yeah, and if you were to translate it into Greek, it'd be the baptismo. You baptize your clothes, wash them up. All right? And it's not going in there and scrubbing them on the thing. They were dunking. There was a ritual washing. Right? It wasn't about washing all the dirt off the clothes and making them spotless. It was about saying, we're getting ready to do something spiritually significant, and we need to pay attention. So each day they would have to go out and wash those clothes. Because let me tell you something, when you're in the wilderness like that, as soon as you're done washing it, it's dirty again.
It doesn't have to be a wilderness.
Well,
Right.
get your mind right, this is important.
Get your mind and your heart and your spirit engaged because you're fixing to meet God. Right? Make yourself holy. Put away all the garbage. It's time to focus. Something significant is fixing to go down.
Maybe we should all throw our cell phones.
All right?
I'd like to do that anyway.
Notice how. Do what?
I was agreeing on the cell phones comment.
I'm glad I brought it.
Notice how it says this. Go to the people and set them apart as holy today and tomorrow. Leadership. Your job is to make people holy. Go tell them to get washed up. Teach them how to wash up. And then go make sure they're doing it. Right? That's what it says. Moses had to go to the people and set them apart. Can't wash the clothes for them, but he can go make sure they're washing their clothes.
And tell them their limits.
Right? And tell them their limits, the boundaries. You give them the knowledge, make them go do it. Right? Stay engaged with them. Right? All right. Verse 14. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people, and he set the people apart as holy. And they washed their garments. And he said to the people, be ready for the third day. Do not go near a woman. This doesn't mean that women weren't present. It means don't go have sexual relations with a woman. Right? Not even if you're married. Right? Especially if you're not married. But because you will be married after that, because that's how it works.
Yeah, keep yourself holy and set apart for God here. Don't let anything disrupt your focus.
There you go. Don't let yourself be distracted. Notice how it says don't go near a woman. So this is a man problem. So it seems to be a woman. Doesn't say go near a man, right? Don't go near a woman, right? It's a man problem. So it happened on the third day when in the morning that there was thunder and lightning flashes and a thick cloud upon the mountain, a very loud trumpet sound. So all the people who were in the camp trembled.
With excitement.
Notice this, smoke, right, or a cloud, thunder, the voice of God, lightning, the very light and presence of God, all right, the representative nature of God is coming down. Hey, you want to know where I got the representative nature of God, how this very representative language? Here you go, right, from Revelation, sounds just like in Revelation, doesn't it, right? Very important we understand this, right? Doesn't necessarily mean there was actual thunder and lightning. It means the very presence of God, the voice of God, the very light and essence of God that would appear almost as lightning. Now, I'm not talking about lightning like you see. I'm talking about lightning when you're real close. You ever seen lightning real close? It's a giant white flash in your eyes and it'll blind you. And your whole senses just go numb. And you're kind of disoriented. Right? That's what it looks like when lightning hits about 10 feet away. I don't even hear the thunder. All I did was feel it. Yeah, knocked me on my butt. Most of it got hit out in the field, which was great. I think the airplane helped absorb some of it. Standing out in a lightning storm in an airplane, by an airplane. That's yeah, one of my wonderful experiences out in the desert. Yeah, where this storm came out of nowhere, and it wasn't even rain. We're just standing out there, and you just hear and all of a sudden there's some lightning, and all of a sudden there was the hair on my whole body went, and then we were all laying on the ground. Yeah. We all jumped up, ran in the airplane. That's enough of that. All right, that's as close as God I want to get. And Moses brought the people out of the camp to meet God, and they stood at the foot of the mountain.
That should be a very exciting moment for everybody.
Well, obviously a very terrifying moment.
That's the word I was gonna use, terrifying.
Right? Remember, this is Yahweh who they called to, Yahweh who they've been told about, Yahweh who they have never encountered before.
This is kind of that famous scene where they, we grumble to Moses all the time, why do you get to talk to God and then this happens?
We're not there yet.
Never mind, you can have it. Preface.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
We're getting there. We're going to get tired of Moses and all his talking to God. What makes you so special? All right. Get ready for that one day. What makes you so special, Brian? Why you get to be an elder? Why you get to make all the decisions? Oh, what? Here's an application. We're hired. Come on to the elders board. See how long you'll like it. I've done that before. And then people come to the elders board and they're like, I don't want any more of this. Oh, wasn't what you thought it was, huh? Yeah. And by the way, I don't know how anybody's ever done it before, and I know the way it's been here before, but it ain't like that no more. Once you're an elder, you don't get to just quit, all right? It's a noble task, which you deserve. It's also a lifelong appointment. That's what
It's like I quit. No, you don't.
No, that's what one of my buddies has told me. My buddy
Keep
James,
adding more sinners dying off.
my buddy James told me the same thing. He's like, look, be careful wanting to be a pastor because that's a lifelong appointment. You don't just get to quit. I mean, I see people quit, but I don't know how they do it because then there's this lifelong yearning and desire to go teach and shepherd and take care of people, and it don't go away. And then you're just like stuck with it.
The guy that I got saved under, third cousin of mine, but he's 93, and God just keeps giving him more to do.
Yep.
And he just keeps answering the call, and he just keeps it going. He's just like the Energizer Bunny.
Now, you can't quit, but you can get it revoked. We see that in Scripture, too. And, yeah, your card's revoked. That's
Oh,
not
there you
good.
go, just mess it up so bad that they revoke it.
Yeah, you don't want that.
No,
That's not a good
that's
thing.
like that other thing you said, you know.
That's a bad thing.
Oh, I thought that was your answer.
Oh, no.
Well, it used
Old
to be,
Testament, you could do that, they just throw some stones at you, yeah.
till we went to elder led though, it was like, every year there was like a third of them that was up for election or re-election.
That's the problem with it.
And that is not a good system.
No, it's not.
You gotta have continuity.
Well, that, and you're getting people sometimes forced into something they don't really want to do, because you gotta get something to fill the ballot, you gotta have somebody on there.
Well,
And there's not the dedication or,
that's what it is. Eldership becomes a board of elected officials instead of a group of men called to God's honorable office or calling, service, ministry. That's the problem with elected people where you have a constant re-election cycle. God said if you desire to be an elder, you desire a noble thing. Not everybody desires it, right? Not everybody desires to be there, because what people think eldership is getting to open, make all decisions, be in charge. What it really is a full onslaught service dedication to the people of this congregation.
Yeah, it's servanthood.
That's all it is.
And it's a whole lot of responsibility.
Oh, sure, you get to make decisions, whoop-de-doo, you know. But really what I get to do is I get to be engaged in people's lives, and I get to see people's kids grow up, you know. Just thinking about Brad's kids here today for Connect, and, oh gosh, her name went right out the window. No, not Lily.
You'll get there.
Help me out, brother! Anna, thank you. Anna comes up to me outside. We were coming over from over there, and little Anna comes up to me, and I kind of got behind because I was letting the door stay open for the wrestling girls. And I got out to about the gate, and here comes Anna. She comes running to the back. She slips in right beside me and grabs my hand. I'll walk with you, Pastor B. And that just warms a little shepherd's heart, you know, to know I'm loving on those kids, and that's Brad's kids. But, you know, sometimes that's my little sister, you know. That's my blood. That's my kin. I love those kids, you know. Every one of those kids, even the hard ones to get along with, they're beautiful children, and I'm here to help shepherd and guide and grow them. And, you know, sometimes I got to go over and do the same thing for Jay. I got to go over and grab him by his hand and say, I'll walk with you, Jay, you know.
No one's up, maybe.
Yeah. But Jay, over mowing my yard, try to take care of Jay and his family, but over praying with his family, walk with his family through some tragic things. But I've been there for some happy moments too, like when Aaron graduated, and you know, his kids are great, and I love walking through his life with him, and he gets to be my neighbor, which is awesome. And you know, that's what it means to be a shepherd, is walking life with people, praying. Gosh, I don't know how many times I've spent bedside praying on people. I'm talking about my bed, in the middle of the night, not even know what I'm praying about, just down on my knees because God woke me up in the middle of the night. Because that's what it means to be a shepherd, is God wakes you up in the middle of the night, and you don't have no clue why you're up in the middle of the night, and you just pray. Because you know somebody needs it out there. God woke you up, and so you sit and you pray, and you know, have no idea what you're praying for, but you're begging God for whatever it is. And that's an honorable thing. And you have to desire that, because it takes every bit of you. As I shepherd my wife, my son, my two daughters, my grandson as well now, and then I shepherd the people of this church, along with Chris, Brian, Nate. We'll get Steve up there. Got him in training.
And long before you become a shepherd of these people, you have to love them.
Absolutely gotta love them.
I mean, you know, because it's just like your kids, you know. You want them to listen to your wisdom, but they don't want to do that until they've experienced it and went through all the mistakes themselves, so you just have to love them.
That's right.
And then after they go through the mistakes and you're still there and you haven't made a negative comment or I told you so,
Yep.
that's when you get to be the shepherd
Yep.
of your children.
That's
Because
right.
that's when they'll come back to you and listen to you, but
That's right.
if if you do not love them, I mean, we're just going through this right now with our daughter moving her to Colorado. You know, right when we moved down here to be close to them, she goes and moves 600 miles away.
Are they really? I'm sorry, man.
But,
telling people
you
like
know, we still got another daughter in Wamego.
right.
Good.
But, you know,
Well, you still got us too.
yes, that's right. And you know what, when you said about predestination or whatever, I mean, you know, this is so much where we were meant to be. I mean, it's just incredible. This community, this church, just everything we've been through.
Yeah.
In just a few short weeks, we've made closer friends than we did in 18 and a half years where we were at before.
Nice.
You know, I had one very good friend died from COVID. In 18 and a half years, my wife and I was always walking, and he drove by on the road, and he stops his pickup, and he says, "Hi, my name's Morris. What's yours?" And you know,
Sounds like my kind of guy.
Morris and I became, you know, just lifers.
Yeah.
And when he died, it just like just a part of me died. It really was, and I got his obit
Yeah.
up there in my office yet, and it's been close to it'll be 3 years in February,
Oh man.
you know, and so, but that's what, you know, a Christian brother, sister relationship is about.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And when one of them dies, it's a part of you.
That's it. That's it, guys. And that's one of the things we're pushing so hard from the eldership is that's how we want this whole family to be, is a tight-knit, loving community that follows God, that does what God's asking them to do. We hold each other accountable, but we rejoice with each other when we rejoice, and we mourn with each other when we mourn, and we're lockstep with each other. Look, and some of us may never be best friends, right? But we can be family. You know?
Well, and really, should we be best friends? Because then you start into them cliches and cliques, and you know, you're a friend to all.
You are.
An enemy to none.
You are, and your family. That's the thing about family. And you know what? And there's some people you will just relate to easier because they're up your alley, and there'll be some people that they'll relate to other people easier. And those aren't, to me, those aren't cliques. Those are mentorship opportunities for one another to grow each other. Sharpens iron. Iron sharpens iron, right? But both of those pieces of iron, they're sharpening each other. Both of them had to go through the forge, right? They sit there side by side in the fire,
I
right?
like that analogy too, though, because it's not an easy process. It's not if you're doing it right.
Nope.
There's gonna be some clanking and pain involved in that, but
Well, it's mostly just shaving. It's sliding with each other. It's a low resistance thing. No, the beating and the pounding, that comes from God, not from each other. We got the refining, the knocking off those really small, rough edges.
that's why it is called the God chisel.
Yes, it's the refinement and the blacksmithing. That's God's job. Beating the fire out of us to put us in shape. That's God's job. It's not our job to do that to each other.
Smooth out the edges that are left.
Ours is, to give that refined edge that God has given you. And that's taking and you know what the thing about that sharpening is? It's repetitive, right? And it's tedious. And it's just over and over.
You know another thing
and
about
over.
iron?
It's magnetic.
When it sits out there and doesn't have that rubbing, it gets rusty.
It rusts.
And it gets hits on it, and then it's awful hard to bring it back. Without some brain damage. You know, you got to make the sparks fly to
Yep.
get it to get rid of the rust.
With my family, God'll hit you when you get rusty.
But you know, I mean, but that is what iron.
Sometimes I'm the hammer God uses.
Amen. Thank him for it.
All right. What time is it? I don't even know what time it is. We're blowing up. All right, we're over. All All right, we'll deal with Yahweh descends on Mount Sinai next week. Okay, and we'll finish up 19. We'll get into 20. Guys, this is good stuff. This is the stuff right here, you know. And just remember, as we watch this, most of us are going to be like, well, what the hey, Israel? I mean, God's still standing on the mountain and you're over there building idols, you know. Well, how many times has God standing right in the middle of your life and you're like over there building idols? And you know, don't give him too hard of a time. Remember, God's the hammer and the refining. He's the one that dumps them in the ground and buries them underneath. Right? Let God deal with that. Just try to be there with each other as we're walking through this, because this is a pretty big deal. Getting to see God. And that's why I love when people say, well, if God would just show up in front of me, I would believe. Well, that's bull, because Israel saw him and they didn't believe, so. Even Jesus said the same thing.
What you're talking about here in Exodus, the giving of the law, then transforms itself into Deuteronomy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and then Deuteronomy is, it's just about pounding the law, pounding the law, pounding the law. You know, and that's what Moses was doing, he just kept pounding the law. And they still didn't get it.
Trying to read. Well, you had Leviticus first.
Yeah.
But you have the giving of the law here, which is an overview of the giving of the law. Then you have the full giving of the law in Leviticus. All right, and then you got Numbers where you count everybody. And they try to go out and they try to go, and then they didn't go to the promise. Then you have Deuteronomy because they have to retell the law before they really go to
Well,
the
and that's
promise.
what I meant by, you know, the pounding of it, but, you
Yeah.
know,
Because what was the agreement? If what?
if you obey my commands and keep my laws.
If you listen to my voice, that's personal. That's not anybody's voice. You listen to my voice, so you got to know its voice. You'll be able to discern the voice of God. And follow my commands. Notice how those are two different things. You listen to my voice, which means you're listening to. I can hear you, but am I listening to you? If you listen to my voice, and if you're relational with me.
That's what my own podcast is.
What did Peter say? Let us not just be hearers
Yeah.
of the word, but be
Hear-doers?
doers.
You'll be a hear-doer?
I heard what you said, but what'd you say?
Exactly. Exactly. Right? Got to do both. We got